And California is not San Francisco, but I am the governor of California, not the mayor of California, not the mayor of San Francisco.
You were the mayor, but I just want to understand, why is it that we have to clean it up? But you have to admit, it's emblematic of something that if enough important people show up, it can get clean. So why not make it clean all the time?
So we got to give you an update today on Gavin Newsom's new podcast and the absolutely hilarious train wreck that it has been. And this is something we've been talking about since the very day that he launched it. But to make a long story short, Gavin Newsom now has a podcast. He is marketing this as his opportunity to reach the new audience where the attention is because, Sonny, don't you know the kids are on the internet these days and the geriatric Democrat Party has to start doing the podcast and the TikToks and all that. You ever heard of TikTok, Sonny? You know, so that's essentially what is going on here. And we'll address that in a second. But I think it's also important to keep in mind that the real goals of this pathetic podcast that we're going to talk about today are twofold, right? First and foremost, I think the reason Gavin is doing this is because he knows he needs to distract public attention and perhaps rehabilitate his image over these scandals that are currently brewing under his feet, right? People are still talking about the California wildfires. As we've covered, the Trump administration is currently investigating him over potential infrastructure corruption when it comes to the high-speed rail project and the absolute disaster that is. So that's number one. And I think number two, it's very obvious. Gavin Newsom is trying to launch his 2028 presidential bid, which is an ironic thing to do, right? It's honestly kind of bold considering you're in so much trouble right now. And the guy is so egocentric. He doesn't know when to stop. He literally just let his whole state burn down. And apparently the guy now thinks he's God's gift to humanity. And it's like, yes, this country needs me. And now he's doing this podcast where he's going to sit down with everyone and have common ground and unification and understanding because Gavin Newsom is just such a great guy. It's absolutely pathetic. But we got a lot to tell you about today because you want more proof here that Gavin Newsom is angling to run for president. He is apparently trying to moderate, right? He's presenting himself now all of a sudden as not a radical leftist. Much to talk about, much to discuss, folks. So do us a favor. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you do so down below. According to the stats, about 50% of you watching these videos these days are not subscribed. So make sure you do so. That's the best way to stay up to date, stay informed on our videos, and to also support our content and the work that we do. And with that said, okay, first and foremost, before we get into Gavin Newsom, backtracking on this trans issue and a lot to talk about here, I first of all just want to make a quick comment on this whole new Democrat social media strategy, because you've been seeing a decent fair share of this, and I speculate you're going to see this through 2026 and 2028, which is the Democrats apparently seem to think the reason they lost the 2024 election is because, well, we just didn't use the internet correctly. Hey, Sonny, you ever seen this dial-up thing called the internet? You know, I actually listened a lot to Democrats kind of coping and crying after the 2024 election because it was funny. And one thing I heard a lot from characters like Van Jones is they apparently just think, oh, we just didn't put our message out there on the interwebs. Basically, this is the central thesis that, hey, if Kamala Harris just went on the Joe Rogan podcast, surely she would have won the election. And that type of thinking, which I think is not really accurate, and I'll explain why, has led to a lot of Democrats like Jasmine Crockett, like Gavin Newsom, trying brand new digital new age media strategies like this right here.
40 acres in the mule, this is bigger than the music. Mustard on a beat, bro. Deep boat, any rap, he a freak, though. Man down.
Like, yeah, that's the type of ridiculous nonsense we're dealing with. You know, the kids are out dancing, getting drunk in the club. Okay, well, let's have the congressman get drunk in the club, and this will be relatable. Let's not ask about your vision or what you're going to do for the country or your authenticity or anything. Hey, here's a Democrat dancing. Oh my gosh, Elizabeth Warren is making TikToks now. Pocahontas is on TikTok. Have you guys seen? Have you kiddos seen this? The new Democratic Party? It's so hip and cool. That's what all the cool kids are doing. It's pathetic, right? But here is the thing. With Gavin Newsom's podcast, with Elizabeth Warren and Jasmine Crockett making their stupid TikToks, the part of this that the Democrat Party is missing is, to be clear, they did not lose the election because they failed to grasp independent media. This whole idea that like, oh, if you just send out the Democrats to do podcasts and interviews, they'll do a fantastic job. No. Because here's the issue, right? You know why independent media is popular? You know why people gravitate toward it? You know why the internet, longer form content, not structured or scripted like cable news stuff, is a growing medium of communication? It's because it's authentic, right? It is sincere, and you cannot fake authenticity. That's the thing. If you put this microphone we're using right here, same one as Gavin Newsom's, right? If you put that in front of him, it doesn't suddenly make him authentic. You understand what I'm saying here, right? And that's the lesson, frankly, that the Democrats are rapidly learning immediately as their new digital media strategy is being massively mocked for being the same exact tired, old, astroturfed, scripted, highly controlled, like thought of in a think tank or a bubble here, approach that a lot of Americans have just found to be fake, insincere, and repulsive.
When I win, I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one.
Like, it's truly astonishing. These people still don't get it. They seriously think that, if we just have all of the Democrat senators make the same exact video on TikTok, or Gavin Newsom gives the same exact talking points-based interview, but he does it with a podcast mic, suddenly that'll reach voters. And the kids will surely come and vote for us now. It's just stupid. It's pathetic. Gavin Newsom on this podcast, as you could imagine, is completely fake, as he has always been. But with that said, we'll get into it and tell you about it today, because Gavin Newsom, in his first attempt here to reach across the other side of the aisle, we're going to have real, unfiltered, censored conversations that literally appear to be edited. I just want to point that out when you look at the cuts. I'm not sure, can't verify that, but, still seems to be, just completely not real here. But nonetheless, today, Gavin Newsom, in order to prove that he's not scared to talk to the other side, sat down and did a podcast with Charlie Kirk. And there's a lot to talk about, but I first of all just want to point out, even in the beginning, it really got off to a strange start, as Gavin Newsom here seemingly admits that his own kid is a fan of Charlie Kirk's, and somehow that makes Gavin Newsom more relatable.
Night, trying to put my son to bed. He's like, no, Dad, what time? What time's Charlie going to be here? What time? And I'm like, dude, you're in school tomorrow. He's 13. He's like, no. This morning, wakes up at 6 something. He's like, I'm coming. I'm like, he literally would not leave the house.
Did you let him take off school?
No, he did. Of course not. He's not here for a good reason. But the point is,
you canceled school for like 2 years. One day.
The point is the point, which is you are making a damn dent.
What a strange thing to say, right? You're trying to have basically this political debate here, and you're admitting like, hey, my own kid is a fan of you, right? Like, you're so effective. The conservatives are winning so much. My own son agrees with the conservatives, but hey, this is proof that I'm reaching the middle ground or something. I don't know what Gavin Newsom is trying to accomplish there, but it does really summarize basically how this entire podcast goes, right? Which is Gavin Newsom is trying to like make this rational, level-headed case for his politics, and he's trying to reach, a common understanding with Charlie Kirk, and Charlie Kirk is just sitting there going, dude, you're completely full of crap, right? As he did right there in that clip. Gavin Newsom's like, nah, man, come on. I'm trying to tell this funny story about my kid. You got to be in school. Charlie Kirk's like, you care so much about education? You shut down schools for 2 years. And this, by the way, is a theme that would continue much throughout this podcast.
Why is it you were able to clean it up for Xi Jinping, but you can't clean it up?
Guys, that was the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. By the way, you guys weaponized that. I saw that on 25 things. It was the most ridiculous. That was, you know what? I will happily revert back to your
Can I have the
counterpoint.
streets as clean as Xi Jinping?
In this case, weaponized. Weaponized.
Can I get the Xi Jinping streets back?
Ridiculous. Give me a break.
No, but Governor, with all due respect, I saw a beautiful picture of San Francisco that looked like Singapore.
By the way,
and then Xi Jinping leaves, and the Walking Dead come back.
By the way, it was APAC. You had dozens and dozens of foreign leaders, and California is not San Francisco. But I am the governor of California, not the mayor of California, not the mayor of San Francisco.
You were the mayor, but I just want to understand why is it that we have to clean it up? But you have to admit, it's emblematic of something that if enough important people show up, it can get clean. So why not make it clean all the time?
So there you have typical Gavin Newsom, right? refusing to take accountability for literally anything ever. Same exact story that we saw during the wildfires. First of all, what he used to say is that like people are just spreading misinformation. Apparently the Walking Dead, as Charlie Kirk refers to them in San Francisco, are not a real thing. Now they are real, but it's not his job. It's not his jurisdiction, despite the fact that, let's all remember, Gavin Newsom is the former San Francisco mayor who said he was going to end homelessness by, I think it was the year 2014 or something like that. Obviously, nowhere close to done, just got a lot worse. But this basically does summarize the entire theme throughout this podcast, which is, Gavin Newsom trying to be slick, trying to weasel a politician himself to, defending his record and sounding like a reasonable, moderate person because he's about to run for president here outside of the state of California. And, Charlie Kirk embarrasses him so bad that in many cases, as you'll see right here, Gavin Newsom was forced to make a number of concessions to Charlie Kirk's arguments, although one could say this is an attempt at Gavin Newsom trying to appear moderate, even though he has a strong track record of the opposite. But nonetheless, take a listen to some of those highlights. For instance, on the debate of education and so-called book bans. Check it out.
How about the book ban stuff? On a serious note, 4,240 books or titles, libraries and schools were banned in 2023. Is that not, as a conservative?
Well, it depends. I think we can both agree pornography should not be taught to 9-year-olds.
Fair point.
Okay,
there.
so that's a book ban.
All right. Well, there were some other books.
No.
Bill O'Reilly's
that was the banned. Moms for Liberty contention. Time out. Yeah. I agree on Bill O'Reilly. The Moms for Liberty movement that you made a big thing of was just no porn to 10-year-olds.
Yeah,
we agree. So those books should be banned.
Well, okay.
So what we should do right now is every California school that has porn in their library should be kicked out.
Does that include the Bible?
Ban. Well, I wouldn't say the Song of Solomon is porn.
No, but some have made that point. Is that a fair point?
I don't think that's fair
and as
at
a man of faith, and I deeply admire that about you.
Thank you.
Sincerely.
Yes, but no, again, the Song of Solomon is rather risque.
No,
but what we're talking about in these books is not just the words, it's also the images. And again, your audience can look at the images themselves.
Okay.
It's highly graphic. But again,
it seems a banning binge. At next level, sort of cancel culture.
But why do you think moms are doing that? Do you think it's because they want to have mind control, or do you think that they have come across incident of highly provocative material?
I love moms, but this moms, we don't have to get into Moms for Liberty. It seems
you brought up the book bans,
deeply organized for a larger agenda, but that's my humble opinion.
No, but let me just, kind of complete the point. Is that it's easy to just call it kind of a book ban, but when you actually have to read some of these books, it will take your breath away of some of the stuff, right? You're like, okay, we're teaching a 10-year-old how to put a condom on.
I know. I just have a problem with, who the hell is going to decide that? Government? Ron DeSantis is going to decide what I can read or say in the boardroom, in the classroom?
This is the exercise of politics, though. Yeah. The exercise of politics is the highest form of community because it blends morality and sociability. So what we do is we have discussion and elections, and we have boards and commissions, right? And we as a people say, okay, no porn for 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
And that's politics, right?
So there you see Gavin Newsom tried to corner Charlie Kirk on this book ban thing and get so utterly humiliated that he has to keep walking it back, right? He has to keep on backtracking. Charlie's like, oh, well, do you think porn should be taught in schools? Gavin's like, oh, no, of course not. And then, Charlie's bringing up things maybe that Gavin Newsom is not aware of. I think he does know. He just pretends that he doesn't know. And he's just like, okay, well, I don't know. Maybe I'll look into that. But I don't know why, guys, Gavin Newsom's even doing this podcast, okay? Is he thinking it's making him look like more reasonable or better? No, he just looks stupid, right? All you see right here is a sleazy politician being completely called out on his lies, okay? In this kind of faked, theatrical, bleeding heart liberal act that, might have worked back in the Obama years, for people back then, for those Democrats, for the Democrat Party of old. It's old. It's tired up, right? It's much like the Hollywood movies, right? Well, Hollywood kind of struggles to produce good movies these days. Same thing with the Hollywood style of politician. It's worn out. It's cliche. It's not really working anymore. And that's what Gavin Newsom kind of gets exposed in at multiple points in this podcast. But now, with that said, guys, I do want to focus now on the main, most talked about, most controversial, whatever segment of this podcast, where Gavin Newsom apparently tries to, again, maybe pivoting here to be more moderate. It's totally disingenuous, but apparently now is saying, or at least suggesting here, that he actually does not think that men should be playing in women's sports. Take a listen for yourself.
Like, you right now should come out and be like, you know what? The young man who's about to win the state championship in the long jump in female sports, that shouldn't happen. You as the governor should step out and say no.
No, and I appreciate,
but like, would you do something like that? Would you say no men in female sports?
Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. So that's easy to call out, the unfairness of that. There's also a humility and a grace, that these poor people are more likely to commit suicide, have anxiety and depression. And the way that people talk down to vulnerable communities is an issue that I have a hard time with as well. So both things I can hold in my hand. How can we address this issue with the kind of decency that I think is inherent in you, but not always expressed?
So obviously, a just complete Kamala Harris style word salad comes right after, but let's focus on the big concession he made there to Charlie Kirk. He does think it's an issue of fairness and kind of implies, hey, maybe men should not be playing in women's sports, which is, of course, such a crazy concept, I know. But is Gavin Newsom trying to seem more reasonable? What exactly is the deal with the pivot? Well, I think it's very obvious. Again, trying to appear to be more moderate and likable before having to run at a national electorate in 2028. Of course, I did see some analysts praising Gavin Newsom for this. They said, hey, look, Gavin Newsom is now angling himself as a moderate. This is terrible news for J.D. Vance in 2028. But here's the thing that Newsom is rapidly going to find out and, just makes this whole thing so utterly fake. And I once again reiterate, Democrats don't get it, is you may think Gavin Newsom is some type of slick new face of the Democrat Party, but this is literally the exact strategy of Kamala Harris in 2024. Because it's interesting, as much as people talk about, oh, Kamala was woke or Kamala was far left radical, in her past, yes, if you actually break down her 2024 campaign, she was trying her best to position herself as a reasonable center of the road moderate. Now, in some ways that's partially because her campaign and her messaging was based on literally nothing, but either way, right? That was what they were trying to do. A lot of the radical woke positions we talk about from Kamala were not said by Kamala in 2024. They were said back in 2019 and 2020, okay? So let's actually debunk that. I would not say in 2024 the Kamala campaign was woke. No, it was trying to position itself as not woke, not radical, much like Gavin Newsom right now. But you know what the issue was? The American people did not believe her, right? That's the thing. When she did the pivot, people didn't believe her. They thought it was insincere and disingenuous. And a big reason for that is because when you have a long track record of going out and being very radical on an issue like this, and Gavin Newsom is among the worst of them, right? Gavin Newsom now says he's like a sensible moderate when it comes to the transgender issue. He currently has men in women's prisons. I'm pretty sure California, I would have to imagine, does have men in women's sports. Can't verify that. Not exactly sure. But I will tell you something I do know for verifiable fact. It is state policy in education in California that if a kid goes to school and wants to start identifying as another gender, you guys can research this is real. If they want to identify as another gender, or even the teacher, kind of talks them into it, they can go change their name in the school database at school, be referred to as the other pronouns, essentially socially transition there, right? Officially, without the parents' consent, right? The teachers can go and literally change the kid's gender, quote unquote, without the parents even knowing. That's in his state. That's his policy. This is the guy now running around trying to claim that, oh, I'm running for president. Oh, yeah, maybe men should not play in women's sports. It's disingenuous. It's insane. And that's why nobody's going to believe it. Because you may remember back to the 2024 campaign, right? Some of the most effective ads for Donald Trump were those just showing, hey, Kamala's saying one thing now, but look at her past track record in politics. Same issue, I would say, that Gavin Newsom is going to run into. And all the people thinking he's such a genius for this, keep that in mind. No, he's not.
I think it's totally pathetic. Absolutely pathetic and typical. I mean, first of all, let's give credit to Charlie Kirk, my good friend Charlie, for pinning him down and getting this admission out of him, which basically most of the country already knew and has known for years. And where's Gavin Newsom been if he thinks it's so unfair that biological men have been competing in girls' sports That's been happening in California for years through his own party's policies. What's he done about it? Nothing. So has it suddenly become unfair? Or, more likely, was he totally craven and pandering to his far-left activists, as he always does? That's the first point. Where's he been? Second point, what's he going to do about it now? You still have all the, have the legislation in California still operative. You have the California athletic authorities still insisting they're going to defy President Trump's move to stop this from happening. So what is Gavin Newsom going to do about it? It's not enough just to talk about it. I mean, this is the guy, let's remember, who 20 years ago said that he would end homelessness in 10 years. We're still waiting.
Yeah, exactly. So let me just say, I genuinely hope of all the realistic candidates out there, it'd be nice to see James Carville run or Joe Biden run again or something. But of the realistic candidates, I 100% am rooting for Gavin Newsom to be the Democrat frontrunner in 2028. And people might say, oh no, he's dangerous, he's slick, he's good looking, whatever. Okay, that might all be fair. That helps him, I guess, politically. But it doesn't change the fact the guy is just a reskin of Kamala Harris, right? The guy is basically a DEI version, right? Reverse DEI of Kamala Harris. Because it's the same exact behavior. Say you're running against the same exact, basically, clone of one another. They don't say anything. You never understand what they're really getting at, right? They're just gigantic word salads about decency or something. Like, same exact thing. You hear it from Gavin, you hear it from Kamala. It's the California effect. It's the Hollywood-style politician, whatever it is, number one. And number two, they're both people with extremely radical, some of the most far-left extreme track records in the entire country, now trying to position themselves as moderates, and it's a very easy thing to make campaigns about and easily debunk. And ironically, a lot of that is now thanks to independent media, right? 40 years ago, that pivot by Gavin Newsom might have actually worked, especially if the media just covers for him and then people in 2 seconds forget. But guess what? We have the internet, and even for those people still watching TV, the internet allows for campaign staffers to put those campaign ads together, source them, and put them on TV. It's just all too easy, okay? It doesn't change the fact that Gavin Newsom's pivot here is so transparently and obviously fake, disingenuous, and ridiculous. His track record shows that, and conservatives obviously are calling that out, independents are calling that out. But what's hilarious here is even Democrats appear to be calling out Gavin Newsom for the fakeness and insincerity, and that's where it gets super duper interesting, right? The infighting has commenced, the civil war, the vying for party control is fully underway because, first of all, we'll point this out, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries was asked about his response to Gavin Newsom, basically disavowing the mainstream Democratic position earlier today, and take a listen to what he had to say in response.
I want to ask about California Governor Gavin Newsom's comments saying that Democrats were in the wrong for allowing transgender athletes to compete in female and girls sports. What is your response to that after Democrats had opposed the women and girls in sports?
I haven't seen his comments. What Democrats opposed was unleashing sexual predators on girls throughout the United States of America.
Yeah, so I don't even know what that response is supposed to mean, but you can already see, right, a little bit of the distance from one another. Hakeem Jeffries, kind of in his eyes, almost looks betrayed. He's like, how dare you? How could you do that? And some people out there, for instance, the Biden influencers, remember them? Remember these kids, right? Harry Sisson, you had Chris, Dean Withers, Parker is another one. So we're going to talk about what Parker had to say in this video today. But even some of them, apparently, are being way more transparent about it because this is the irony of it, right? So Gavin Newsom goes out and tries to appear moderate. All of the conservatives say you're completely full of crap, dude. Like, we know who you are. Like, you can't just put on, it's like basically with Mr. Potato, right? If you put on like the round glasses and the nose and the mustache, it's a different person. It's like, no, that's literally still you, Gavin Newsom. So that's what the conservatives are saying. But apparently even the liberals, some of them are saying, How dare you betray trans people, right? So Gavin Newsom is just completely screwed up with this because you have Parker Get a Job here saying, Gavin Newsom, you are an effing coward. You're an effing coward for not standing with trans people, would never support your ticket for president. So apparently because he does not want men to be playing in women's sports, Parker apparently thinks that we should not support his ticket for president. Well, Parker, I will agree with you on one thing here. Gavin Newsom should never be president, and certainly, yeah, we should not support him for that ticket. All right, with that said, though, guys, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.